Hello all and welcome to this video response, and this is a VR response to the original video done by David Retro Games Play Badly, in which he speaks about 5 games that he has an emotional attachment to. Now it's a cracking little video with some real interesting stories, so please do check that out if you haven't seen it already. I'm going to put a link in the description below. So let's crack on with my 5, and on screen by now you will have noticed the Midway Arcade Party Pack. Now it's not this compilation I have an emotional attachment to, it's actually one specific game that's on there. It's just the only physical way I own it and can show you something to do with it. Anyway, growing up as a kid, Mum and Dad owned a caravan for quite a few years, and we would use that caravan to go on holiday 2 to 3 times a year, and on site they had an arcade. Now I've always credited the arcade with getting me into gaming. Didn't own a console for 2 or 3 years, so basically arcade cabinets and arcades were the way for me to game. And I just remember walking into this arcade on that caravan site for the very first time and just being absolutely blown away with all these games that were in there. And I was drawn to this one particular arcade cabinet. It had 3 joysticks as opposed to 2, and it had one of 3 choosable monsters that you could be, and then you'd use these monsters to smash up buildings, and then when you smashed up every building on screen you then move on to another level to smash even more buildings up. And all this would be happening while the army would be shooting at you, and that's how your monster's energy would get depleted. And then the funny thing is when your energy did get depleted and you fell to the ground, you turned into a regular human and things like that. I remember trying to punch the train and chase it along, and if you got 2 of you, you could sort of sandwich it and then sort of punch it, and then when it shot off, your mate would punch it back and so on. You'd almost play tennis with this train until it destroyed. It only took 2 or 3 hits. But anyway, what game am I talking about? Let's flip this around and show you the image. There it is, it's Rampage. Absolutely love Rampage, and it's probably the reason why I bought this compilation actually. No, it's not probably the reason, it is the reason why I bought this compilation, so that I could actually play it again and relive my childhood memories. But yes, Rampage for those reasons will always hold a fond memory in my heart, and probably one of the first games that I got into. And yes, just every time I'm said, here, you got a couple of hours, I'd shoot off the arcade and spend every last pence I had on that particular cabinet of Rampage. So absolutely love it, and Rampage is my number 1 choice. So let's move on to my second choice, and we're just going to bring in a little prop to start with, and this is my Sega Game Gear. I claim it still works. The sound doesn't work. You have to turn the contrast right up and you have to tip it. But this particular console I have emotional attachment to as well. I'm going to get onto the game in a minute. But I was going to say, I didn't have a console while I was into gaming. I went to arcades for 2 or 3 years, and eventually my mum and dad bought me this for a birthday. And I went for a handheld because I hate long car journeys and I could take it with me. And I remember we had the cigarette adapter for it as well, so I didn't need batteries in the car. We all know how well this consumes battery life. And yes, this Game Gear is fond memories for me, dear place in my heart, and of course the game that it come bundled with. This little fella here, we all know this was coming, didn't we? And I'd played it on the Mega Drive. Mates had Mega Drives and things like that. I had little goes on Mega Drive, so I did want to play Sonic. So the fact it come bundled with this was a pure joy. And obviously being the first physical game that I ever owned, that itself gives it an emotional attachment. But just the hours that I put into this, because it was the only game I owned for a while until I bought Castle of Illusion second, I think, or Streets of Rage. It was definitely those 2, can't remember which order they were in. But this fella, cart only copy, come bundled with my Game Gear, spent hours on it. Just remember happy memories with this game as well. Obviously I had the AC adapter when I was at home as well, so again didn't eat batteries up. That was how I played it indoors. And in this game, I was going to say, there's one moment as well I remember. In this game, the Chaos Emeralds, you don't earn through special levels or anything like that. You actually had to find them within 1 of 3 acts within each zone. And I remember being stuck on 5 out of the 6 of them for ages. And of course, if you found all 6 and then beat Dr. Robotnik at the end, you got the true ending. And when I finally found that last Chaos Emerald in the jungle zone, that was a good day. I'd finally done it, and even then, once I'd found all the emeralds and completed the game multiple times, I still never got bored of it. I just played it over and over again, and it was fantastic. And I'll tell you what, for a handheld as well, the soundtrack on this is really good. They've done an absolutely awesome job of this this conversion to the handheld. Fantastic. Absolutely loved Sonic the Hedgehog. So let's move on to my third choice, and when I show you this, I'm going to say hear me out here. But if you know my gaming, you'll understand why very shortly. And why am I bringing in a copy of a generic sports title in PES 2010? It's not actually the game, it's kind of what the game represents. Now, if you know me well, you know I'm into hunting my gamer score. I'm into achievement hunting and basically, yes, getting my gamer score as high as possible. Now, I've always been into gaming, many a year, obviously, before achievement hunting and gaining trophies if you're into PlayStation cropped up. But when I first played this game on my Xbox, and I got that first little pop at the bottom of the screen, which was First Glory, I think it was for 10G, can't quite remember. I was addicted to getting gamer score as well, and it added a new dimension, a new element to my gaming. So not only was I playing games for fun, for completion, and such like that, the gamer score was then a way of playing the game in different ways, being challenged to do sort of different things. I mean, some of the game score and some of the achievements are absolutely bit of a mockery and really easy, like press start and just complete levels and or mash one button several amount of times. But there are the odd achievements which challenge you in certain ways, and also when I hear a game has an easy achievement list and such like that, it then encourages me to play that game. And then now I'm discovering hidden gems, and I always use Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons as an example for this. It's a fantastic twin puzzle game where you control a brother with each thumbstick on your joypad and solve puzzles because they have different abilities. And I must admit, it's just one of those games that wouldn't have stuck out to me as into must have a little go of this. But because I had an easy achievement list, I played it, and then I absolutely got fascinated by it. It was such a great little puzzle game. And then I got all the achievements in the game, and I hadn't finished the game. They'd all unlocked before the end of the game, but I didn't care. I wanted to finish it, and I carried on. So achievements not only are challenging and something extra within a game, but also can introduce me to new games because I hear they have easy lists or something like that, and then actually end up enjoying that game too, which I would have played. So the achievement hunting side of thing has brought so much to me, and just like I said, added an extra element to gaming to me. So PES 2010 will always hold a little bit of a place in my heart because that was where the first pop ever came from. So yes, it's just a generic sports title, but it has a reason behind it. Anyway, let's move on to what is probably the most emotional connection out of the 5 I'm showing to you. And this list was always going to have a Gears game in it. And it's specifically Gears 3. Now, the storyline in Gears I got absolutely emotionally invested into throughout the whole lot. And the thing about Gears is, or games in general, I don't generally get emotionally invested in storylines or emotionally invested in specific characters to a great deal. But with Gears, it really, really did sink in. And the first Gears was good. It had its moments. It had its, again, each copy of Gears, each game within the Gears trilogy, original trilogy, had its moments of emotionalness. And if you've played through these, I am going to include no spoilers, so it's going to be hard to talk about it to a degree, but the second one had its moments. But wow, did the third one have the best campaign and the real kick in the crutch moments of emotionalness that I've ever experienced in gaming. And whenever anyone says, "Oh, what's your most emotional experience in gaming?" I always refer to a specific moment in Gears of War 3. And again, no spoilers, so I don't want to talk about it. I'd like people to play it if they've never played it before. Play through the whole franchise in order if you've never touched a single game. Honestly, the story is a real roller coaster of emotions, and so you'll get invested in the characters. And for that reason, something that happens in 3, yes, wow, yeah, it's all coming back to me. Wow, absolutely wow. So yes, that is really why Gears of War 3, out of the 3 of them, if I'm picking one game, because I have to pick 5, is the one that holds an emotional attachment to me. So the last game is a little bit of a generation skip back, but it's for a reason, and we're skipping back to the Dreamcast, and I'm going to show you another football game, but this time I'm going to show you Virtua Striker 2. Now, why am I showing you Virtua Striker 2? Well, I remember the cabinet in particular was actually version 98, but Virtua Striker 2 had many iterations. And this is going back to me talking about the arcade scene. Now, even when I had consoles, I frequented the arcade scene for years. Even if I owned a game on my Mega Drive, PlayStation, Dreamcast, I still go to the arcade and spend money on a game that I owned because you couldn't beat the arcade experience. You couldn't beat the cabinet. Like playing Street Fighter on a sit-down 2-player cabinet and have, random people come up to challenge you. Just things like that just couldn't be beaten. And the reason why Virtua Striker 2 has an emotional attachment to me is kind of for sad reasons as well. Because as we know, the arcade scene kind of has fallen away when you go to the seafronts and places like that. It's full of teddy grabbers. It's full of fruit machines. I know you used to have the odd fruit machine before. And it's full of these machines that give you tokens and tickets and you try to redeem prizes. And in amongst it is probably 5 games if you're lucky. And the reason why Virtua Striker 2 has an emotional attachment is because it's probably the last game that I would frequent the arcade with so much and hunt down before arcades kind of fell away into what they are now. So I'm going to have to go to an arcade club, so God bless the revival in that aspect. But the reason, I mean, I did absolutely love Virtual Striker. I love my sports games to be a little bit more arcadey at times. I do like playing FIFA if I want to play a serious football game, but I like my sports games to be arcadey, and Virtua Striker 2 was the one, and it was just so much fun. It was simple to play, 3 buttons, and you could score some ridiculously long distance goals. And I remember if you scored today's best goal, you'd get this sort of rainbow strip behind your goal in the replay, and then if you completed the game, you get it behind all of your goals if you held down the start button during the credits, and it showed you the best goal from each game. So that's just a little thing that I know. So yes, that's why Virtua Striker 2 holds such a dear place in my heart as well, and kind of for sad reasons, because it's the last game I can remember being addicted to while the arcade scene was still the arcade scene as such. So ladies and gentlemen, that is my 5. I'm going to encourage you to do a VR response yourself. It's a really interesting topic, so it's always interesting to hear people's thoughts on games and why they got emotionally attached to them as well. So I'm just going to ask you to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hit the bell if you are, so that you'll get a notification drop every time I do a new video. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to leave with thanking you for watching and saying finally, as always, take care.